I think they're just going to all take you home with them at the end of tonight. I think you should. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then we'll take it from there. So,
hi, I'm Nikki Braendlin. I'm the writer-director.
Hi, I'm Caroline Fogarty, and I played Margaret.
Bonnie McNeil, I played Josephine.
So as we all know, it takes a village to make a film. So anybody else in the audience you want to recognize?
Yes, and our amazing composer is Kristen Baum, and she's back here.
So we're going to jump right into it. I always like to start off with how did the story and script come to be? Because without that, you can't make your movie.
So a film came to be because Caroline and I met doing a student film from USC a while ago. A while ago. Yeah. And we'd known each other for a long time and worked together. And we both just really wanted to work together again. And I was living in that gorgeous house. That's Caroline's house. And I was living there with her and her husband. And I said, you know, why don't I write something and you can be the lead and we'll shoot in this house. And she said, great. And I also have known Bonnie for a very long time and really wanted to work with her. And so I had the location and two of the actors, and I just kind of created from that. So it was kind of a different writing process because normally I'll start, I think like most writers, with themes and come down. And then this time, you know, it was kind of the other way for a while. The OCD came into play because I do struggle with it. If you start seeing me tapping, that's what I do, tapping and counting. And, you know, the house lends itself to somebody who might be a little particular. a little clean. I actually, when I lived there, I am super messy. Like that's not where my OCD comes into play. And so I lived in that back room that was the guest room, and I hung up my bright red curtains, and Caroline didn't visit me back there. So that's kind of where it came back. And I just said, I think they could be sisters. And I have a half-sister who's older, and so we grew up separately, so I understood the idea of being having that sisterly bond, but not having grown up together. So she influenced, and she spent time on communes and stuff. She's awesome. So that influenced the Josephine character.
Great. And then did you write it yourself, or was like Caroline looking over your shoulder helping out, or was it just all kind of you and I'm just going to write the whole story by myself?
Yeah, it was me. I mean, they were, you know, I said I'm going to write you guys something, and this is kind of the ideas, and you know, what are you thinking about? You know, what do you think about it? And both of them get cast off, and they played these kind of big brash characters, and I was like, we're not doing that. I don't know how to direct that anyway. I said, let's just wait. You know, let's do something that you might not always go out for. You know, probably everyone recognizes her from a million commercials that she does, and she's always like, that character, and not always, but yeah. And so I said, you know, let's just do something more intimate. So I wrote it for them, but not like, you know, not catering to them.
And so then for Caroline and Bonnie, did you guys feel like this was something you as a challenge you wanted to accept, or were you a little nervous to take on something that maybe wasn't quote unquote in your real wheelhouse? How did you guys feel about it?
I didn't want to do it at all.
Did you use your mic?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Testing. No, I was scared, you know, that expression.
Well, when we read it, we actually looked at Nikki, and at the same time, we're like, oh no, we want to switch roles.
Yeah, we begged her to switch.
Yeah, because I normally do comedy, and well, so does Bonnie, but Bonnie is a real actress, I call her, because she does theater, and she can really connect with her emotional side. But to answer your question, I loved it, though, that Nikki trusted that we could do these roles, and actually, once I got into the character at the end of the film, or actually even like after day one, I was like, oh, I want to do drama. Oh, screw this comedy thing. I really want to do drama.
But your agent was like,
Yeah. Every day I'm like, I can do drama. Like, where are these hour-long drama auditions? But the thing is, when you have a great director who you've known for so long and who trusts you, who you trust, and says, "No, you guys can do this," you just start to believe it, and it just happens. And I mean,
No, we seriously thought she'd cast us in the wrong roles.
yeah, we really did.
We kept saying it throughout. Well, at some point, we stopped.
Well, they were, like I said, they were.
We were fully committed about 2 weeks in. Okay.
At the wrap party, we were like, "Yeah, I think this actually is gonna happen."
Then what was kind of the pre-production conversations like that? Were you guys just involved once shooting started? Did you kind of do your own thing with your producer, or were you guys kind of all, since you knew each other and knew you were writing for them, involved from day one?
Oh, not on a producing, no.
No.
I didn't want to burden them with that. I mean, that wasn't, every time I had a draft, we got together and talked about it. So that was
A draft,
helpful.
readings, stuff like that. Did you guys have rehearsals once you were cast?
We were able to get
Like 2 or 3
Bonnie
with Laurel.
and Laurel together a couple times for that. You guys read through the scenes, but it was mainly just hanging out.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was about 4 or 5 times actually, and we really, it was so cool. You could really just see the progression, because they needed that bond. The very first scene that we shot was them sitting on the couch talking about their road trip, and by the last meeting, Laurel had been snuggled up to you, and you guys were painting
Well,
each
she
other's
ran into my arms the
toenails.
minute I met her. She was pretty great.
Yeah.
And then she told me on day one, she's like, "Hi, my name's Laurel, and I can't talk to you because, my character is very awkward around you and uncomfortable." And I was like, meanwhile, I was like, "Hey, Laurel, we're going to do a movie." She was like, "No."
And
She's working it.
it was.
Oh, yeah. And then she was like, "Do you want to?" Then she's like, "Do you want to run lines?" So, she was my coach. Pretty much, she was my coach. That's part of the material.
And
Well,
she would give us acting tips throughout the film.
No, and really what was great is
She's not here, so
the
I can say
third day, it's taped.
Hi, Laurel.
On the third day we shot the curb scene, so we were out of order. I tried to do as much in order as we could, but we just couldn't. So the curb scene, and she already knew by the third day. She came in and she was like, "I'm gonna go get prepared." I said, "Okay." So she goes into the back room and is lying on Caroline's bed, crying, and Caroline comes in. She's like, "I have something down so I don't get it on the comforter." Do you remember?
Yeah.
Like she was
afraid of me.
already like,
Mhm.
"Ah." Yeah. By the end of it, I swear Laurel was like adjusting everything. She was like, "I think I have OCD." I was like, "Oh no." Created a monster.
Hopefully.
How did you find Laurel? Did you audition? Was it a recommendation?
So Hannah was the only part that we cast for. I wrote it for them, and KTP and Lainey Graham and I worked together in a group home for kids, and she would always bust out in song, and I was like, "Yeah, we're doing that." And I asked Roman to come in for a couple hours and play the client, and Dee Wallace and Jenny O'Hara, we just approached and asked them. Actually, after it was edited. So they were acting opposite me, yelling the ant scenes from another room even, so in all of the phone scenes, so true testament here. Laurel, I put out, I was still not sure of the age, anywhere from 8 to 13, and so I didn't put out a breakdown, I just called the agencies. So you're very bold when you're not an actor, like calling for yourself. It's a lot easier. So I just called these agencies and said, who do you have? And I also put out for Actors Access because I had been an actor for a long time without any representation, and I just wanted to, let these girls have a chance. And so, you see why we call.
So then, in that audition process, you being an actor, what was it like for you to be on the other side, and 2, what is it like to
Much better to be on the other side. Sorry.
No.
Yeah. Well, I tried to, I thought about it later because I thought, I wonder if that was not the right thing to do. But I gave them, when they all first came in for the first audition, and this is like 50 to 60 different girls, the 5 stages of grief scene. So it was a good 5-page scene. And I worked with each of them. I had each of them do it 2 or 3 times because I felt like they put in so much effort to rehearse, and you go in and people are like, great, thanks, next, and I'd been there and I just didn't want to do it. So I worked with them and you guys can tell me later as actors, I kind of felt like, oh, maybe that was a mistake because maybe, you know how we get, and I'll say, we're like, oh yeah, they had me do it a couple times. So like, I think they really want, that they liked me, they really wanted me. And I was like worried that I was giving them false hope, but we didn't have a casting director and we used this place that I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure you guys all know it. It's free for us and we tape the auditions and then you guys can pay.
What's it called?
Cats.
Yeah,
Cat.
cast.
Yeah, and then the actors can then view themselves and see comments. So I was very thorough in my comments and talked to agents and said this, and that. And there's a lot of really, really talented young actors out there, so and older. Everyone, yeah.
So then was it a chemistry thing? How did you feel like you knew this person was the role?
Yeah, so I brought back probably 8. Oh, yeah, I don't know. And Bonnie came in to read for the second time. So by the time I got to the second audition, I had honed in on a 10 to 11-year-old. I really wanted somebody who was young enough that still needed the mother figure in their lives, but also was old enough to really get the depth and understand what was going on and process her life. So I honed in on 8 to 10, and Laurel was one of them, and so we did the scenes with between Laurel and Josephine. And at that point, I was like, you guys just clicked, and she was so focused and everything, and I was so worried because she was really professional. Like, she was very serious and there, and I was like, trying to make sure, because I gave her the hard scenes to do, and I was like, I really need to make sure that she still had that kind of spunkiness that Hannah had, and so I brought her in for a second callback, just her, and we read the KTP scenes and danced around the room and had fun. I was like, done, and so we called it, yeah.
Did you feel it as well, Bonnie, that you can just sense as another actor that you're like, there's something there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was actually shocking to me, and I thought, remember this for an audition if you ever go on one. That
there's hope.
one of the little girls never looked at me, and I thought, way to go to connect with your fake mom. Never looked at me, and I thought, oh my God, that's so easy to do if you have nerves.
Yeah.
So let's pray we never are that bad at an audition. No, she never looked at me, and I went, well, she's getting the hook.
But
I
some
mean,
of
immediately, it was like, get it.
right, but some of that was
She never made eye contact in the whole mother-daughter scene.
it was some of them
crazy.
were good, strong actors, didn't have the technical, and other ones had the technical.
Oh.
They were polished,
Showgirls.
but didn't have,
They were some little showgirls.
yes, a lot of makeup.
They're the scary kind. Like the reality show type. Yeah.
So I'm curious, you guys have obviously a great dynamic, and so what was it like, since you knew that they were playing opposite characters, was there, once you got on set, once you started shooting, what was that dynamic? Did the friend thing have to be put in the back burner? Like, what was that dynamic on set for you guys?
No, go ahead. I don't want to hog the mic.
No,
I don't know, what was it?
Do you know why I'm looking at you?
No.
No, okay. Well, the dynamic was it was great. We were friends, but I mean, I put a lot of pressure on myself because I wanted to do a good job for Nikki. This was her writing, directing, producing debut, and it was my first lead in a feature. So I was pooping my pants. Can I say that?
You just did.
I just did. But no, it was very professional, and I mean, Bonnie and I were always kind of goofy, though.
Yeah, but we didn't have trouble acting estranged when the
No.
lights were on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a weird kind of ducks to water sort of. We're kind of like, oh yeah, right. We should have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It felt very natural, and it felt like it was. I mean, God, I even though I've seen this film a ton, I really miss it. Like, can we do it again, please? I need a job.
There's
Okay.
a talk of there is talk of sequel. I'll throw that out there, but I don't know. I will say on that note, as a first-time film director, because I directed a little bit of theater, but had never done any film, it was important for me also. not only wanting to work with them, but to work with people that I was comfortable with, because I was, was nervous. And so it was great to have, Bonnie and I both studied at Stella Adler Academy, so, preparing for the character, we had that same language, and then she and I know every freckle on each other's body. We're, so we had that shorthand too. And Laurel was so cute, because I said, I don't feel like you have to tell me everything about yourself, like secrets or anything, but it would maybe be helpful if I knew a little bit what you were using so I could help you work. And she's like, I'm 11, I don't have any secrets. It was really cute. So they were all very, very open to it. And it was good for me because, I never wanted to lie. I did all the intentions and everything, but y'all, at 2 o'clock in the morning we get that shot, and I just had the comfort of being like, I know this is terrible directing, but just say it faster. I could do that with them and not feel like
that was so rare. She's not giving herself
rare,
any credit. She was.
Well,
yeah, but you pulled stuff.
Nice.
A lot of you are here. Thank you guys. Some of my friends are here. You know that I'm like wacky, over the top comedian, and I think I did drama pretty well, and it's all because of her. Oh, thank you. I didn't mean that. I'm just trying. I'm not blowing my own horn, but Nikki was such a phenomenal
it's nice to work
director.
with people that you are comfortable with, because you don't feel
This
like
is the
you
first
have to do
film
this.
she's directed, people. It blows my mind.
You said something I wanted to hit on. Did you, as an actress directing for your first time, did you feel you went back to words of objectives and tensions with them? Do you feel like that was kind of the language? What was the language as an actor that you used with your actors?
I actually went back and reviewed my acting notebooks and watched some, acting teachers on tape and stuff, just to kind of refresh. It had been years since I had done any acting, but. The Stella Adler technique is all of the imagination and all intention and everything. So that was definitely a shorthand that we had. And and I hated improv. I hated doing improv. I hated it. I never understood it, so I didn't make them do it. I said, if you want to do it, we'll do it, but I don't understand trying to rehearse a scene without the dialogue. I just never got it. So there were things that I knew I didn't like and didn't want to put them through unless they wanted it. Yeah.
And then what was your guys' work since the characters you felt were so opposite, how did you guys kind of sink into that? What work did you guys do to kind of live in those characters?
I'll go second.
So she created a whole background for the character. That's it is. That's still Adler to me.
Yeah. Stella's is all about the imagination. So, you create kind of every character the same way from the ground up. I kind of throw myself out of the picture and don't try to find how I'm similar. You end up doing that subconsciously anyway. You only have yourself and your own, tools and whatever. You know what I'm saying. But I'm really like a deer in headlights right now, and I knew I would be, so I apologize. My husband actually teaches acting. And I would say to him, how should I approach this character? Because I felt like I forgot everything. And I thought that working on film would be so much different than working on stage. And he'd say, you know how to work, just do your work. But he gave me this great exercise. He said, I'll give you some homework. I said, give it to me, because I'm not doing it on my own. I'm procrastinating. And he said, why don't you write letters to your daughter that she can open up after you die? So I did that, and that was a great exercise. I wrote her one to be opened on her 13th birthday, when she, has her first boyfriend, and thought that I would give them to her and kept forgetting. So they were always in my purse, and I filled my purse with, personal things that Josephine would have, and that just kind of fed me.
Caroline?
No, I'll just be quick. Well, since I come from a more comedic background, it's all about timing, and everything is very technical, and you're not thinking so much as you're like, okay, what's the funny line? What's the funny word? Sitcoms are very, you're thinking so much. So for this, I kind of threw that all out the window and came from a more, I just kind of felt it. I hate to say it, I didn't do a ton of homework only because I didn't want to overthink it, and that's usually what I do for stuff. So I just really felt it, and I've learned in acting, if you feel it, they'll see it. So I was trying really hard to just feel it and not show it. And so that was really my whole process, the whole film.
We spent time walking around the house with you as Margaret.
It was hard because we had to have, Margaret has to have an arc, but it can't be so big that it's not believable, but she has to have some sort of arc. And because we shot everything out of order for the most part, it was hard for me to know, okay, where am I here? Okay, this,
I think we did the most different variations of takes for your character, just to make sure, because it is so subtle,
especially at the end, the scene, the funeral, we did a couple different takes of a subtle change, a really big change, and then maybe somewhere in the middle. And I think that was probably somewhere in the middle.
Great. Can you guys, I love to hear context of how certain scenes came to be, because we see the final product, so we don't know the story of it rained and then it stopped for 5 minutes to get the shot. So do you guys have some stories of, like, if you knew what it took to get this shot, then you'd really, like, if you knew?
Well, it was all, like you said, 99.9 in the house. So we had a very controlled environment. And it was very fortunate for me to know the house ahead of time, because I could utilize, like, the kitty door. And, like, there are things that I knew there are things that I do. I will say, I probably wouldn't have written 10-page scenes. The game scene was 10 pages. The KTP scene was 10 pages. That's a lot. And, if you really think of it, there's really only 3 and then KTP characters the entire time. So they were learning an entire movie. And so that's probably where I was like, I did a lot of wides that I never used, and a lot of takes and wides. So the next time I'm not going to do that. But there weren't any, like, specific. We got very lucky with the weather. It didn't rain. There are 2, I don't know if you want to hear, there are 2, like, kind of obstacles, if you will, that come to mind. And one of them was, so it never rained, which is great. We were, however, shooting at the end of June in the valley. So there were some days that were warm. And I don't know if y'all have ever been around a porta potty when it's being drained, but it is pungent. And apparently when it hits heated, non-moving air, it's even worse. So they would come once a week and do it, and it was like eye-watering. And one time we were outside doing the 10-page KTP scene, and it was horrific. So maybe shoot around the porta potties. And then the very last day of shooting was July 3rd, and we were outside for the lovely garden scene where Josephine has discovered a beautiful spot, and she says, "Oh, it's just so peaceful back here." Boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, and there's a huge party going on. I mean, those are kind of all the normal things that you run into, but we didn't have the controlled environment. So we sent out crew members. We thought it was right next door. That's how loud it was. And so we sent them around to everybody's house with, like, a plate of cookies to, like, could you just give us an hour? And it turns out it was like 2 neighborhoods over. And it was carrying the whole way down. Yes, yeah, it was bumping. So yeah. So anyway, those are really the only kind of oof moments. I mean, for the scene.
And since it was all in that house, and it was Caroline's house, Caroline, can you talk a little bit about, was it like 12-hour days where you felt like you were just, like, living and working in your house and it was kind of crazy? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was crazy. I will say it was great to just wake up and go to set in the next room. Because it takes me a long time to do this hair, even though it doesn't look like it would be. Yeah, I will say I got a little stressed. I am a little bit of a clean freak. I really wasn't until I moved into that house. It kind of forces you to be that way, because it's an Eichler. I don't know if you're familiar with Eichlers, but they're mid-century modern, and you can see everything, and it has to be very clean and perfect. But it was perfect for the character. So of course, Nikki and I would be like, a little bit. And I'm like, because I was like the actress, the homeowner, and the site rep all at one time. So I'd be like, don't scratch my bamboo! And action, So,
And you
look,
really can't wear shoes.
No, you
The
can't
whole
wear shoes.
crew had those little
A lot of my
doctor
friends, though.
slippers
yeah,
on.
it was. I mean, I will say if we did it again, which I'm always like, Nikki, I want to do it again. She's like, oh hell no. I would be a lot more relaxed. But I will say this: it did help my character. Yeah. It really did.
And I mean, that is one say I would say you were saying friendship and whether that I had to say, okay, I'm the director. Remember, I think that was just the first day. I finally said, I can't address the problem, so do it. But I mean,
You would say, talk to the producer who's in the other room.
yeah. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. But you know, to Caroline's testament, and she didn't even notice it, but she would be doing this, and then I'd say, okay, we're rolling, and she would do this like, it was kind of freaky. She would like, kind of just shake her head and clear her throat, and then like become Margaret, and I was like, so I was like, let's just stay rolling the whole day. We'll just keep her in character.
I don't know what school of acting that was, but.
So yeah.
Last, we're going to end on this, and you guys can chime in your own perspective since you all kind of decided to make this together, even though you were the writer and producer of it. It seemed like it was a friend thing. We're encouraging our actors to create their own work. What would your advice be to them in, say, they're looking to make their own first feature film? What would you advise them since you've completed it?
So I was fortunate enough to be able to fund through friends and family. But I will say the budget was doable for crowdfunding, so you can do that. I mean, it's hard to say just do it. I didn't know what I didn't know what I was getting. I think there's some statistic of 95% of first-time filmmakers don't make a second film, which I understand. However, I'm not, let's hope I'm not done. I mean, I want to keep going. It didn't deter me. I'm very much a planner in every aspect of my life except for huge art projects. For some reason, like if you say, hey, we're gonna go to dinner tonight, I'm like, what? I guess it's not on my calendar. Like I can't do it, But I'll be like, let's just make a feature film, And I just did, we just did it, and I would always hear this networking, and I'm like, it's like blind dating, right? It's awful. It's like you're just going and you're trying to see who you click with, but the key is you really just have to do that. And I met our producer. We had one producer. I mean, she put the entire film together. I was the executive producer, and then Lena Bubenachuk was our producer. Put the whole film together, and we met at the LA Film Festival a year before. So exactly a year later, we were shooting, and she is great at networking, and she just came up and asked me about something, and I was like, yeah, and she's like, I'm a producer. I was like, I'm a writer. Okay, bye. And I left, and I walked out of the tent, and then I was like, what are you doing? So then I went back, and then I was all awkward, trying to pick her up, I'm like, so you're a producer? Cool, It was really weird. And she's like, yes. And I just started I mean, we had clicked anyway, but we just started hanging out, and you could just tell it was just people were like, you guys have only known each other for a little bit of time, but social media, and I hate saying that because I hate it, but you have to be doing it these days, and as an actor, I will tell you a story that you're gonna hate, and so don't be upset with me. I went to a casting director panel, and one of the casting directors said, if it's between two actors, and they're totally even, and we don't know which one to choose, I will go with the one with the bigger online presence. I will cast that person. This kind of goes with the make your own thing. I think every actor should be in a theater company. That's already a built-in, community. You're being creative. You got to constantly be doing. You just have to. It's just a completely new age, which is great because it's not the studio system anymore where you're locked in with one thing. You can create your own stuff. So if you're not a writer or director, if you're not a hyphenate, there are plenty of people I mean, there are so many writers in this town that are dying to have their work done, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, there's not any, I don't know if there's any new thing I could tell you,
That's great. For Caroline and Bonnie, and your actor perspective, what made you believe that this was going to happen and invest into it and be a part of it and know that, okay, this is not just us talking, but us doing?
She said it's happening in June.
So specifics, that's why.
I said I better start losing weight. No, I mean, I was so lucky to have Nikki as a friend who decided to stop acting and start writing and wanted to work with me. I couldn't have been luckier.
I think for me, yeah, Nikki basically said, I'm writing a script, you're going to be the lead, we're going to use your house, and we're going to shoot it in like 2 months. And she wrote the script so fast. I was like, oh my God, I better start like acting or study or do whatever I have to do to be, in this movie. But Nikki also I knew Nikki would do it because she created a theater company that I was part of, and Bonnie was part of too. Briefly.
I was a guest artist.
She was a guest artist. But Nikki created a theater company that was nonprofit that helped women and children, and it happened, and we did it. So then when she came to me with this, I'm like, oh, it's happening.
Well, and that
So
was, I will
surround yourself
say-
by people who actually
do so.
get stuff done.
And we funded
or do it
every-
yourself if they're not going to do it.
We funded every production by y'all garage sales and
hey, yeah.
drag queen bingo. That's how we got the theater company going, because I couldn't get in the door as an actor, so I really couldn't. When I finally got a manager, she's like, Nikki, I can't get you auditions. I'm like, I know. I don't know. And I think it was like the universe was like, you get off the stage, like we're done. But so I just said, I started creating my own stuff theatrically and theater company and blah, 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 and this was just kind of the next step.
Great. I think this is a great place to end. Can we give him another hand?